Okay.
Hi.
Welcome. I'm really not in the mood for any more tech issues today.
No, I don't. The one on the link on the email didn't come up blue, and I like copied it and pasted it, and they were like, "No, this."
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
I obviously missed out.
And I can't seem to do. Is it okay without the headphones?
We will see. Sometimes it sounds horrific. At the moment, it's sounding fine.
I'm not quite sure where to put it. Not sure what to do. Oh, yeah. How are you, Sarah?
I'm very well. How are you? What are we drinking today?
What are we talking about?
What we're drinking.
What are we drinking?
What we're drinking. Because I haven't had my coffee yet. I didn't actually have time to go and make it. So I've got water as well with things floating.
Yes. You know, when I signed up, I thought it would just be nice to have a chat with you. Literally, it was not really. And then you were like, and I was like, oh, it's being video recorded around.
Well, have you been watching them? I've been re-recording them, and then showing them a week later or something. Because sometimes I have 2 dates in a week, and I don't want to bombard my feed with multiple coffee dates, so it's like 1 a week. But when I started this, I wasn't videoing anything because I was doing it
face to face
in real life, face to face. I say person to person. So obviously I couldn't record it, but I was like trying to take photos and record what it was that we talked about. And what I found was it was really frustrating because I wanted to document it. I've seen people who have done it, but for me, when it was in person, it was such a distraction. Even remembering to do the selfie, we'd have to, reposition ourselves to get in the picture properly. And I would at the back of my mind, I'd be thinking, I must remember to take a picture. So I quite like the fact that now I can just chat to you. It is recording, but no one's watching yet. And then I can, I watch it back and I enjoy it again.
Right.
I was going to extract the audio and make some podcasts out of it, but I think I'm over that.
Oh, interesting. You could.
I could.
Fast.
It's very, very easy. I discovered a great app called Anchor, which is free and super, super easy. You either just talk into the phone or you upload your audio, create a cover image, and off it goes. It's ridiculously easy.
Amazing. It's amazing.
For anyone who wants to do it.
Put my phone on silent while we're talking. That's a good idea. Yeah. I really like your writing. I think you're very good at writing. I think you should.
Thank you.
Do something with that. I mean, look, I think you can also do the podcast as well. But I think you're very talented with expressing yourself in writing. I'm always impressed.
I really enjoy it.
It's not my skill, so I'm always impressed when people are able to express themselves in writing.
I was very impressed by you constantly turning up on video, because people can make really mean comments about people that don't run their own business and rely on a lot of work from Facebook. They're like, oh, you're always online. You're always this is how I make my living.
Yeah.
That's what I do. If I don't show up, then I'm not in the front of anyone's mind, or they might assume that I've gone out of business or something, or I'm having a rest.
Yeah. People, I have to say, I haven't really had negative comments. People just say things like, "You're always on Facebook." You. What do they say?
Yeah. You're always on Facebook. Yeah.
But that's people who don't use Facebook for work. I get most of my clients through Facebook.
Me too. I don't use it really for personal very much.
Right.
I'm trying to think, I don't know about you, most of my posts are either sharing something, you've posted something and I like it, I'll share it because we're both small businesses that we know what it's like. I'll do that quite a bit, although I try not to do it too much. People get stroppy about it. I don't remember. I think the last time I posted a picture of my kids was possibly when I managed to get them all together in lockdown. But before that, it was probably like in September. Yeah, I've stopped using my personal profile so much for the personal because business profiles just, I mean, I keep my business page going, but it's just there in case someone wants to look me up and see what I've been up to. It's not like I expect it to get any reach, as in about yours, but mine's just.
So I try and post on it every day.
Right.
My page, and then I share it to my profile.
Right. So I read some article that says if you take the post itself and share it, it gets really rubbish reach. So I always end up posting it there and then reposting it.
Oh, maybe I should do that. It's interesting.
Annoying, okay?
I don't know, but I haven't got a website, but I think people look me up more on my Facebook page. So I want it to show that it's not like the last post was in 2016. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like
Absolutely. So I feel the same about my website. Is that I put a lot of effort into keeping my Facebook page going and current. And I realized after a while that I need my website to be the same because we haven't forgotten about websites. We really haven't.
Right.
And it really depends what kind of creature you are. And I've been to some people's website and it looks like they haven't been in business for 10 years because they just haven't bothered tweaking it. And we do make a lot of assumptions. And even if we're not aware of them, we make assumptions. So I kind of had to step outside of my business and look at it and say, what assumption would I be making about me if I looked at A, B, and C? I even updated my Google, what's it called? Google business listing. Even that, because I thought, well, it's run by Google, right? So Google want to push it. Like when you search something, Google listings will come up, like local businesses or whatever. So I also want that to be current. It's a lot of work. But you know what, Helen? I haven't asked you to introduce yourself. So tell anyone who will be watching who you are.
Okay. So I'm Helen Abelesz. I can tell you what I do as a job. I'm a life coach for women. And my passion is to help women feel good about themselves, to just recognize their greatness. I feel like women are so down on themselves and they're often so stressed and busy and running around. And I'd like them to just feel calm, use their time well, and just feel accepting of themselves and just notice how amazing they are. And acknowledge that. I feel like that's such a huge part of my work, is helping them to just notice how amazing they are, because they don't.
I think this is definitely a female, it's much more of a female issue than it is a male issue. Let's put it like that. Like you were on my seminar, webinar, whatever you want to call it, yesterday. So you saw what went on. I gave this seminar to a bunch of women, showing them how to use Canva. And I did warn everyone beforehand, you know, haven't really done this before, haven't used StreamYard in this way, where you can have 6 people in this, where we are now, which is called the studio, and then others in the waiting room. And I knew there were going to be tech issues, but what I wasn't ready for was the raging that came at me of, oh my God, like, I've cleared my diary for this. What do you mean I can't get into the studio? And like, dude, I never said that you would be accessing the studio. You're going to be waiting room. There's obviously been a mix-up. It's fine. You can watch it anyway. You were very kind. You're like, fine, I'll just watch it somewhere else. It's fine. But someone said to me afterwards, don't focus on that. Don't focus on the ranting and the nasty comments. Focus on how well it went, how many people attended and how many people enjoyed it, and the good feedback that you got afterwards. But like, I was like, fixated on these like 2 people that were angry with me.
Yes, and the other 15 or whatever were fine. Yes, exactly. I think it's a lot about, I try and say to myself, or to say to my clients, when someone's angry at you or says something hurtful, it says much more about them than it does about you. Probably
yeah.
they're not having a hard day, or they're just a bitter, angry type of person, the short fuse, or whatever. It's much less about you. We always take it very personally, like, oh, I messed up. Da, da, da.
Yeah, this is like a life's work. I like just learning this. I mean, when I first started giving in-person workshops of photography, I remember doing it in a friend's house. Now she was renting. I didn't know this. Her doorbell downstairs to the flat doesn't have her name on it. I didn't know that. So I tell everyone how to get to the flat, what time it's starting, which floor it is, because sometimes people won't say what floor they're on, and you go up in the lift and keep pressing buttons. I'm like, that's really annoying. But to tell them it's the top floor. Anyway, so a couple of people just messaged me to say there's no whatever her surname was on the buttons. I'm like, oh, and I asked her. She said, oh yeah, my name's not on the door. I'm like, oh, God, sorry. And I tell them where to go. One guy comes in. He says, I bloody hope your teaching's better than your navigational explanatory skills. And I just froze. I absolutely froze. And yes, you're right. Like, that person is quite grumpy and doesn't really know how to speak nicely to people. But I was like, I could barely breathe. You get this kind of instant, I do, like this feeling in my chest. Oh no, I've done a bad thing.
I know, it's hard. It's very hard. And it's hard to hear criticism, I think, and it's hard to take on someone negative energy, that negative energy towards.
Yes, I think you're right. I think that's what it is, the energy.
But so look, it's very hard to remember at that moment to say it's about them and not about me. It's even
so what do we do?
It's even with our kids when they come home from school. I hear this all the time with my kids. They are so good in GAN or so good in school, and then they come home and they're like a horror. They're nightmarish because they've held it in school. Do you know what I mean? They have to let it out in a safe place, which is with their family. And they can say some really hard, heartbreaking things like, you're so mean, you're not a good mummy, and all these things. And if you feel like that a bit anyway, you feel like I'm not the best mum, and then your child is saying that to you, it really is hard. It's really hard to deal with. So it's trying to recognize it in the moment and say, this is about them. They held it in school. They can only say that to me because they feel safe with me.
Right.
And, but it's not easy. I'm not saying it's easy. But
no, someone explained, I'm trying to remember where this came from, this explanation about our progress in life, about how it's a spiral, but not spiral like that, but it goes up like a spiral staircase. So you get to the point where you're like, I've been here before. And to begin with, you're like, oh my God, why am I back here again? But each time you're back there, you're on a higher level. You're that much more removed than you were the last time, and you have more skills that you've built. So I will get into a situation with a client and I'll be like, oh God, I've been here before. Also, I know my worth. I know what I've done. I know, if this happened again with a workshop with someone not being able to find their way, I don't think it would have that. I don't think I would have that feeling in my chest for the entire 2 hours. I think I would have that initial kind of, and then I would kind of click into action and say, okay, I know what to do here.
Yes. And you've had that experience that it didn't ruin the rest of it and people could still get value, even though at the beginning that technical thing happened. Yes. I think that that's what I totally believe in, that upward spiral. I think that talking through an issue, it doesn't mean it will totally go away, but the next time you face that same issue, you will have thought it through. It will be familiar, like you said, and you'll be able to deal with it in a better way. Like, I'll give you an example. And also experience helps, that you've done it and you got through it, so that helps you. But it's interesting because we said we talk about negative thoughts. So some of these negative thoughts that we have about ourselves tend to reappear. They tend to be the same few negative thoughts that we have. They're a bit repetitive. And the ones that we've probably we've probably had the same few for forever, sort of thing. The same few come up, and you probably won't ever be able to 100% get rid of them, but it's amazing what can happen when you work on those, when you know what your negative thoughts are and then you notice them. So for me, I know I can say one of mine was, you're not good enough. I didn't have a lot of confidence as a child and as a young adult. And even, you know, it took me a long time to gain confidence. And so that was mine. I would always hear it. And then I worked on self-esteem, my self-esteem. I did a lot of work on that, and I worked on my confidence and all this thing. And now, most of the time I feel confident. And if something happens that triggers that feeling, like something goes wrong or something happens, I'll still get that thought like, oh, you're probably not good enough for that. That's why this is not working. I'll get that thought again because it's so deep rooted. But I can hear myself saying it. I'm like, oh, it's just that thought. I can almost laugh at it because I've done so much work on that thought that I'm like, oh, it's just that thought. It's not necessarily true. It's just a thought that pops up. Right. You know, it's. You
don't have to pay attention. Just.
And I know where it comes from, and it's amazing. And that is. There's this book which I love, totally recommend it, called Taming Your Gremlins. Have you heard of this?
No.
Oh my gosh, amazing book. Taming Your Gremlin, which is, it's as if you've got a little horrible gnarled creature, a little gremlin in your head saying these horrible phrases to you, these horrible negative messages to you. And it's quite helpful to imagine that this horrid gremlin is saying the thoughts rather than you, because it's about separating yourself from those thoughts, because it always feels very true. When you're saying to yourself, oh, here you go again, you're going to mess up again, oh, maybe they're right, I'm wrong, I'm not good at anything, or whatever, you know, whatever it is, everyone has their things. It feels very true and real and accurate. But if we think about it as being a gremlin that's just saying these things to you, we can a bit separate ourselves. That's just the gremlin speaking. It doesn't mean it's true necessarily. It's just that gremlin. And this book is amazing. It has a whole exercise you can do to try and tame your gremlin.
Oh, cool. I'm going to look it up. I mean, it sounds very similar to, I discovered a book maybe 10 years ago called, I'm trying to remember, Secrets of a Former Fat Girl. So she writes this book about her weight loss journey. She started off knowing absolutely nothing about nutrition or exercise, and she started, do you remember the days when exercise classes were called Keep Fit? I'm going to Keep Fit. So and Jazzercise. She talks about going to her jazzercise class in her, I don't know, neon green leggings or whatever it was that we wore in those days. And it's a very, very entertaining book. And once she's kind of entertained you, she does also give you some rules for how to, you know, live a healthier life and get yourself into that schwung of exercise and eating good food. I mean, she was the kind of person that would have one of those big tubs of ice cream and sit on the couch and eat the whole thing. And she called the voice in her head her inner whiner. And it's just like this whiny, annoying voice that with time, with training, like the gremlins, she came to kind of separate it from herself. And I found it fascinating to begin with that she was encouraging us to it sounded like she was encouraging us to have like a separate personality, but it wasn't really. It's just, the inner whiner was saying, I don't want to go for a run, but I'm tired and I have to get up early in the morning. And she would have conversations with the whiner, and I never forgot it. So I will look that book up. I always like hearing it in a new way.
Yeah, it's really, it's very interesting. I think the main thing is that we have hundreds of thoughts all day long, and that is talking to us all day long, and it's to actually notice what are we saying to ourselves. That's why some people think you should journal, you should write down without thinking, just like get all your thoughts out, brain dump. And because we're saying a lot of negative things to ourselves during the day, and we don't even know that we're saying them a lot of the time. And this is just to bring up awareness that. And
sometimes I'll just like dump like words, or I'll dump a phrase or a sentence. It doesn't even. I used to think it had to be like, "Dear diary," something like, you know. I was like, no one's reading this except for me, so why does it have to look perfect? Just get the stuff out. It's so much better.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be coherent sentences even. It can just get it out there. It's an interesting exercise to do. Yeah.
And it's interesting that you work with women, because women have way more thoughts than men on a daily basis. We have a lot more, absolutely. When my husband ran the Comrades, which is 89 kilometers in under 12 hours, for the Comrades, you're not allowed to wear headphones, and not allowed to listen to music. You have to be immersed in the experience, which is a lovely, lovely concept. And I just said, how on earth can you just like be alone with your thoughts for 11, 12 hours? And he kind of looked at me blankly. I said, well, what do you do? He's like, I just clear my mind. I don't think about anything. Like, what? What do you mean? Like, there's always something going on in there. Wow. He asked me the other day, what's going on in your head right at the moment? It's the first time he's asked me. I said, I'm singing a song. It's like, what? I said, there's a song going on in my head. And that was like Tears for Fears or something. So what do you mean you're singing a song? I was like, well, what do you mean you're not? So yeah, I think women's brains are a very, very noisy place. They really are.
And I think especially mums, especially if you're working and you've got kids and you're running a home, there's always 1,000 things you need to be remembering.
Right. Which is another reason why writing it down is amazing.
Yeah, I write every single thing down because I would forget everything. I find a lot of women, and this is me totally, it's like our minds are full of the things we need to do. I must remember to make a doctor's appointment for that one, a dentist's appointment for that one, take the dry cleaning, go and write up that thing there. Like there's always a million things to do. I've got to pick up this one at that time, take them there, like 1,000 little.
Yeah, and I've always said, like, I do not want my life to be a continual to-do list. Because once you start writing the to-do list down, I bought a passion planner maybe 5-6 years ago, and I've had one every year. And passion planner gives you space for personal to do and work to do, but it will not let you. There's not enough space for more than maybe 10 tasks, and you're supposed to prioritize them. Some of them are errands, some of them are urgent, but it's trying to encourage you to stop buying into this culture of crazy busy.
Yes.
How are you doing? How's your week? Oh, crazy busy. Like it's some badge of honor. I love the fact that my planner is talking me down from that, because I don't buy into it. You catch up with someone. How's your day been? Oh, so busy. Why do you ask? I want to just say I had a really chill day and got some stuff done, and it was like relatively productive. That's the other thing. It's like it doesn't always have to be productive either, right? Like,
yeah,
sometimes just do nothing. I mean, not that often, but
I think it's a real message in Western culture to do more. Doing more is being more productive.
You're worth more.
You're worth more. And it's interesting. I read another book which I totally recommend called Do Less. Do Less. Have you read that book? Oh my gosh, amazing book.
On my Kindle, maybe. Who's it by?
Kate Northrup. Kate Northrup.
Oh wait, isn't it just called Less, with a picture of a man falling? No, that's a different book. I know her name. Okay, go on. Maybe I've got it on my Kindle.
Maybe it's, I don't know, I thought it was called Do Less. Anyway, oh my gosh, she talks a lot about, instead of trying to do more, be more. Just be. it's not how many things have you done today, it's how you did them. Did you, rather, instead of doing 100 different things, just do 5 things or 3 things and just enjoy them and be there and really do them and just, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I totally buy into that. And what I do is I have an ongoing to-do list of things that I would like to do or need to do, but I then do a daily list whereby in the morning I write down, and it's really generally 3 things that I want to accomplish today. And I'm really kind to myself. I'm just really kind. I don't expect too much of myself. That I think that
absolutely
compassion. And then if I can tick off those 3 things, I am thrilled with myself. I am so thrilled. And
whereas I think people tend to like cram things onto their to-do list and get really frustrated if they don't, you know, if they don't complete them all. And even if you do complete them all, next day you're going to wake up, there's going to be a whole bunch of new ones. So it's just not the way to live life. I think a lot of people have realized that recently, since we had to slow down, that small baby steps and small wins are what it's all about. Everything is all about small steps, small wins, little things, little small moments. Like, we're realizing that that's actually the crux of everything. And I read a book called Tiny Habits. Did you read that one?
No, I've heard of that. Tiny Habits. Yes.
Tiny Habits really helped me last year to kind of get me back in the swing of just getting out and about and getting things done. I had a lot of anxiety, and it was really difficult for me to having a to-do list was just not an option. So it was like getting into the habit. I wanted to get back into the habit of being able to make my bed, for example. So it was, his whole idea was that you fail with things if you, like you said, if you pile too much on yourself, you're setting yourself up for failure. Break everything down into really small, doable tasks. It doesn't matter how small. If you want to start flossing every day, and then create hooks. So you want to floss, but you find floss boring, right? So give yourself a little something, a way to enjoy it. Put it on your favorite podcast, and you can't listen to that podcast unless you're flossing. Make a deal with yourself. So I've done it with laundry, hanging out laundry outside instead of using the dryer in the summer. Stop being lazy, go outside, hang the laundry. So I know I get to listen to one of my favorite podcasts if I'm going to go hang the laundry. Now, I know you can break the deal, but I don't. I want to stick to this. It serves me. So really, I mean, I don't know if I read the whole book, but I think I basically got the hang of it.
Yeah, I love that. And I think in addition to that, I like it if you do something in the morning, early on, first thing sort of thing, and then you've already accomplished something first thing in the morning.
Eat the frog. Where's that come from? Eat the frog. That's what it is.
Is that what that is?
I've got to try and remember where it comes from. Like, you swallow that frog, and then everything else is gravy.
Yeah, you've already done. I do the Miracle Morning. Have you heard of that?
So that's a book that we've both read. Yeah, and I kind of do it in my own way.
Yes, I don't do it the way he does it, obviously.
I adapted it for me.
Yes.
It's like, okay, it's not going to work unless I adapt it.
No, what I do though, he says there are 6 habits you should do every day, but he's discovered 6 habits that successful people do. And if you do these 6 habits every day, preferably in the morning before you start your day, then you'll be successful. I think that's his premise.
Yeah.
But he talks about getting up at 5 in the morning and doing this for hours.
Right. So that's what I had to tweak. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that.
No, so when I first started, I really did. I would get up at 6 in the morning and do these things before I woke up my kids for school. And for me, it wasn't sustainable. I'm not really an early morning type of person. It was really hard. So instead of doing that, I do it after my kids have gone to school. You know, I do it later. I don't have to do it, but I do try and do all 6 habits every day. And what I love that I learned from that book, I think that was the best thing I learned from the book, was that I use his tracker. I've got it here. Where you tick off.
Oh.
And the point is, it's Maybe I should do it a bit, but you can actually. Oh,
I'm like moving my head to try and see.
Anyway, the point is, it's like a sheet where you write down the things you're working on. It's a 30-day tracker, and you tick off. For me, learning to tick things off every day, whatever you're working on. So for me, it's his 6 habits, which is like exercise, meditation, writing things down, reading something, visualizing, affirmations, ticking those things off. And then I've added things like posting on Facebook, doing exercise, you know, things that I want to work on, following like certain things that I work on, personal and work related. Ticking something off every day makes you feel so accomplished. It's like a sticker chart for kids.
Yes. Yes, we need it. We need to be accountable.
When I see there's a gap, I have it in front of me on my desk all the time. And when I see there's a gap, I haven't done my meditation yet today, it pushes me to do it just because I want to give myself that tick. And no one else sees this chart.
Right. It's really good.
So motivating, having something to tick off.
Yeah.
Tick off.
And because no one's looking at it except for you, you can just say to yourself, it doesn't have to be 5 a.m. Like, I'm not going to get disqualified from the class for doing it at 8 a.m. Doesn't matter. No, like some people don't enjoy, but I don't want to be disturbed from my sleep.
Yeah, no.
Get up from my sleep in order to go meditate, but I was sleeping. That was much nicer. Meditating is nice, but sleeping wins.
Of course. Yeah,
I had a look, by the way, where eat the frog comes from. It says, as Mark Twain once said, if it's your job to eat a frog, it's best to do it first thing in the morning. And if it's your job to eat 2 frogs, it's best to eat the biggest one first.
That's a bit like doing
the big frog.
Get it out the way.
Yes.
Just do it, get it out the way. It's done. You've done it, and then you can enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah. So I used to make lists of what the big frogs were. I quite like to get back into doing that, actually. It's fun.
Yes. So if there's a phone call you've been putting off, making.
Or yes, it's always phone calls.
Just do it. And I say if you've got 5 phone calls you've got to make and you're putting them all off, it's like those annoying phone calls like the Kupat Cholim or the post office, like the doctors or the post office, you know, like
I've got to pick things up from the post office. You just reminded me.
It's all those annoying things, or things you've got errands that you've been putting off doing.
Yes.
Or phoning the school secretary to find out. I don't know. Those annoying things. Those calls, I say, don't do more than 1 a day. Don't at all expect yourself to do it. And if you do work out what your reward is afterwards. I give yourself a reward. So when I've done that, I'm going to allow myself to, I'm going to call a friend for a chat, meet a friend for a chat, have a coffee, make myself delicious food. I don't know, whatever works, whatever is your treat. I'm going to sit down and read that book. Give yourself a treat. I'm about being kind to yourself and expect less. And
I had to make a list of what that looked like though, because like, right, it can't all be like chocolate and cake and biscuits. Need to find things that are food related. Because I made this, where is it? I made this jar. Oh, it's disappeared. I made this jar for my husband one anniversary and it had sticks in it. Here it is. And it's really funny because obviously I got the idea from Pinterest. And it's you can pick out, it's a date jar. Of course, we have barely done it. Could barely get the lid off.
Ideas.
So it's really cute ideas like going to a mall or a flea market, Segway tour. These are really nice things. But so many of them were food related. Once I got started with it, I realized how many of them themed movie with popcorn. Okay, food. Dinner, dress up dinner in a fancy restaurant. Loads of them were, when I got started, were based around food. So I had to really think hard to find something that wasn't, it was still a treat, but we didn't have to eat. Well, there was drink. Invite couples to games and cocktails. I'm like, okay, so that's not food, it's storing calories. It's tricky. So I made myself a list of what grounds me, what makes me feel like I'm looking after myself. I made a list on my phone because sometimes I forget. Like,
Yes.
I want to treat myself and I don't know what I like. Can't remember. I forget that I like to go out for a walk and take my shoes off in the park and feel the grass. So it's written down on a list.
Yeah.
How do you treat yourself? What's your list?
Yes. What do I do? Either a book, chocolate. Chocolate is obvious. Chocolate, a book, meet a friend for coffee. But that's also food, isn't it? Listen to some music, maybe. I think I would just allow myself to sit and read a good book. For me, I like to read. I might go and buy myself. For me, to buy myself a book would be huge. To go, that would be a very big treat. To go to actually a shop to buy a nice book. I love buying books. I could spend all my money on books if I'm not careful. Yes. So I try not to, because otherwise you could just spend too much money. But oh, that would be a nice treat.
And how do you get past that guilt feeling that most women have? Most women feel guilty when they treat themselves and spend money on themselves and spend time on themselves.
It's huge. That is just so huge. I actually just talked about guilt in a webinar that I gave, and this is what I think about guilt. I have a whole thing about guilt because it comes up so often, and it's something we all have to work on. But this is not guilt about looking after yourself. This is more like guilt. You know, you shouted at your kid and then you feel guilty the rest of the day, even though they're fine. They've totally moved on, but you are just still feeling guilty, or guilty that whatever. We're always feeling guilty about something. I don't spend enough time one-on-one with my kids. It's always something. So this is what I think about guilt. I think guilt is such a useless emotion. It doesn't spur us into action. It mostly paralyzes us and makes us just feel bad about ourselves and just like rubbish. And it tends to just make us feel bad, and then we just sit and just ruminate and feel rubbish. So instead, if you notice, it's all about noticing. If you notice that you're going into that, oh gosh, I just really messed up with that kid, or I really shouldn't do that, really shouldn't have spent that money on myself, I feel really bad, I could have bought my kids something and instead I bought something for myself, I feel really bad, I'm so selfish. When you notice that you're having those feelings, gosh, it's just awful actually just thinking about it. When you notice you're having those feelings, to say, what would you say to a friend? If you would be talking to your friend and your friend said to you, oh, I've just shouted at my kid, I feel terrible, I'm just such a terrible parent, you would say to your friend, look, they're fine, they'll be fine. You're human, it's fine that you shout as well. Or if you said, I just feel terrible, I spent $100 on 2 books, I can't believe I've spent that money, or 100 shekel or whatever it is, and they would say, no, good for you, you're spending on yourself and that's fine. Last week you spent money on the kids and this week you spent on yourself. So imagine how you would speak to a friend. What would you say to them? And try and key in on that sort of compassion to yourself. And then the second thing to do is, if you say shouted at your kid, or you feel that you're not spending enough time one-on-one, take one step towards doing that. So if it's that you're not spending time one-on-one with your child, say you're not getting round to reading with them or something, and the teacher said they need to practice reading and you just can't seem to find it. So instead say, okay, once a week on a Wednesday afternoon, I'm going to spend 10 minutes every Wednesday afternoon with this one kid reading. Like, make one tiny step towards doing that better. Or if it's on, I shouted at my kids, say, no, notice I'm always shouting them. It's always around 5 o'clock in the evening. I always seem to, something happens to me then. So set a timer and at 10 to 5 and have music going off at that time, or have, it could be a blood sugar. You suddenly, you know, your energy is dropped, and that's why, like, do one little action towards changing the situation. Because I think that when we feel guilty, we just do nothing. We just feel bad.
Yeah, you're right. It's paralyzing. We
don't actually do anything to improve the situation. We just feel rubbish.
Just in it. Yeah.
So that's what I don't know. I think, yeah, we should just be kinder to ourselves and say, we spend that money on ourselves, say if that was a thing, and that's good. We're being a good role model to our kids as well, that we prioritize ourselves, even if we don't feel good. Like, you can talk yourself into feeling better about it.
Yes, our minds are very open to suggestion.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask you what your secret superpower is, but I feel like, for me, if I had to say about you, I would say that it's compassion. That's what you're bringing to the table, and that's huge.
Oh, thank you. I like that. I hope it is compassion. I found this thing saying a picture. I don't know what they call that, picture with words, saying calm is a superpower. And for me,
that's another one.
Is for me trying to help people to be calmer. I think everyone is so stressed all the time.
Right, and they don't even seem to be having a problem with the being stressed thing. I think that's just the way that everyone has grown up. It's like accepted that we're stressed.
Okay, yeah.
And I just made that decision that I'm not prepared to live a life of stress. I'm not entering into that. Obviously, It happens now and then, but generally,
it's a choice. Well, it's interesting. I've had clients who've said to me they're worried if they're less stressed, they'll do less. They won't be as productive and they won't get everything done if they let go.
You shouldn't be getting things done from a place of stress. Yeah, that's not great.
But there is something about that people sometimes that adrenaline keeps them going.
Yes, I think it's a physiological thing. I think some people thrive on stress, and I'm the opposite. If you stress me out and you put pressure on me, I will just shrink.
Yeah.
I'll just go hide somewhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't. Yes, that too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I meant to ask you this right at the beginning. What did you do before you were a coach?
Oh, so
you don't have to answer if you don't want to.
No. I studied psychology at university, and I thought I'd become a psychologist, and then I didn't. I decided I didn't actually want to be a psychologist, and I went to study speech therapy, and I became a speech therapist, and then I worked with kids and then I found what I loved about being a speech therapist was talking to the parents about accepting that they have a child with special needs and needs the help. And I did a lot of sort of counselling unofficially of these parents, of accepting where their child is and mourning the child they thought they were going to have and all that. And I loved that more than actually working with the child.
Right.
Also, it was at the same time as I had little kids, whereby I'd be doing puzzles and playing with little kids during the day at work, and then I'd come home and I didn't want to play anymore because I'd been playing with little kids all day, and I didn't want to play with my own kids, and I thought that's awful. I really wanted adult interaction and conversations and not playing with kids because I had that at home.
Yeah,
I do love playing with kids, but I wanted that
in your spare time.
So I went and studied coaching. Also,
and where did you study? I don't remember where you.
So what happened was, the reason I didn't want to be a psychologist is because I'm quite a doer. I like to have action and do. And for me, psychologists, I know nowadays there's CBT and there's different types of psychology, but at the time it was all about psychotherapy, where you would just talk, go for years on end, endless amounts of talking about your childhood.
Right.
For me, that does not talk to me, to just talk for hours and not have a solution, just understand yourself more. That type of therapy is not my personality type. So that's why I didn't go into psychology, becoming like a psychotherapist or something. But then a friend of mine in England who I studied psychology with said to me, I was on the phone once with her, and she said to me, oh, there's this new thing called life coaching. I was like, oh, what's that? I've never heard of it. This is about 17 years ago. And it wasn't, I'd never heard of it. It was very, very new. And she said, and she explained what it was, that basically it's talking therapy, but it's very goal focused. So you have set goals and you work towards it. It's short term, and you have something you're working towards. I was like, oh my gosh,
sign me up.
That is exactly. And I searched for a course in Israel, but it had only just come here. There was nothing.
Right.
There was one course in Herzliya in Hebrew on every Friday afternoon, and I had little kids. And I just couldn't get there. And also, like, I keep Shabbat. I can't do Friday afternoon. It was just not going to work. And then, just by chance, I felt like God put this course onto my lap. There was one course in Jerusalem for English speakers. It was the first course in Israel for life coaches, and by chance I found out about it. It was really by chance, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to do that. And so I studied in Jerusalem. That course no longer exists, and now there's tons of other courses, and now you can study it online. This was before you could do it online. There was nothing. I was like searching for it. So I've been doing it for like 15 years, and since then there's loads of courses have opened up.
Right.
But for me, now that I think about it, there's nothing I could do. If I gave up this job, I literally wouldn't know what to do.
No.
I couldn't go back to speech therapy because I've been out of it too many years. I don't know. I feel like it's who I am now. It's my whole identity.
That's beautiful.
I can't do anything else. No.
That's amazing. That's the best. That is the best feeling. And if anyone wants to follow you along on Facebook, where will they find you?
Helen Abelesz, Life Coaching for Women, is my business page. They can look Helen Abelesz. Hopefully it will have how you write my name somewhere written here so that you can.
Yes, it's written on the box.
Helen Abelesz. There aren't that many of us, so it will come up. It will come up if you write Helen Abelesz, Life Coach for Women, and that's my website too, Helen Abelesz. Yes.
Okay, perfect. I have to go visit your website, actually. I don't think I've been.
No.
Thank you, Helen. This has been gorgeous. It was so nice to catch up with you.
So nice. Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. And, yeah, nice to chat. All right.
Have a good rest of your day. I'll speak to you soon.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.